Growing up often felt lonely in a way that no one talked about, and I kind of feel that way about adulthood too. I sometimes feel like things were supposed to be a little bit different, and we were supposed to receive a little bit more guidance on how to interact with other humans or with the different seasons of life. And over time, I have learned to hold myself, but some of the things I always thought would complete me when I was younger don't fulfill me at all as an adult. I feel very resonant to the main character in 13 going on 30 because things that weren't even on my radar before have become my biggest sources of joy now. And so many of our childhood experiences shape the way that we relate to life. So I feel in constant conversation with my younger self, checking in with what actions feel right and true for me and which feel like abandonment. So much of my channel is creating things my younger self needed to hear. So no matter how small or commonplace these lessons may seem, they continue to transform my experience here. I just didn't have any guidance growing up, and so I just wanted to share some baselines for me, some objective truths, and just kind of inner knowings that I have, this like mental dialogue of things that keeps me feeling safe and empowered and expanded. So I'm gonna have different sections in the timeline below. I have gone through many layers of grief, of anger, why I wasn't protected and kept safe, full forgiveness, and I'm now at the point where I am ready to show up, which to me feels like almost the final point of healing is that integration from everything that has happened and being like, you know what, I'm not going to perpetuate these wounds. I'm not going to perpetuate this hurt. And I'm simply going to show up differently as the living embodiment of everything that I've learned. And that to me is like full circle healing, and it feels so good. And I am at that place where I can unconditionally love my parents for exactly who they are. I'm not trying to change them. I'm not expecting them to show up differently, but I feel empowered enough within myself that I can just see their story and see their molding and love them through it. Something that has felt newly, deeply liberating to me is not needing to force anything and not needing to match people's energy. All throughout my path, I've known that everything meant for me will naturally show up on my path, but there's been this subtle deepening into that truth when it comes to friendships and relationships. Like, if we don't have time for each other right now, that's okay. When we're meant to hang out, it's gonna happen and we'll make plans. And when it comes to matching people's energy, I feel like there are a lot of people who are really excited in my life, who are really embodied in a way that can sometimes be really expressive or hyper, and I love that, and a lot of times I'm there in celebration with these people that I love, but other times I'm just really chill and I don't feel like being all giddy. And I noticed that I wouldn't hang out with people sometimes when I was just feeling really calm because I didn't want to perform that like giddy excitement. And I was like, wait, I don't need to not hang out. I can just be my full self around them and just be calm and not need to be like, oh my God, yeah, let's do this and that, and that's crazy. I can just be like, that's so beautiful. I would love to do that, and just be in my own authentic voice and expression. And you can socialize with a lot less energy and have it be a lot less draining if you're just allowing yourself to be in your own authentic embodiment in the moment. Like, maybe it doesn't look like screaming and dancing and shaking your ass. Maybe it just looks like nodding and taking sighs and looking out into the distance. That is me like 80% of the time. So you don't always have to match people's energy. And also when it comes to forcing things, if you are constantly feeling the need to show up a little bit differently around people or hide parts of yourself and things just don't feel like a full fit, not speaking to those things or addressing those things can lead to long-term suffering, and it's just information that is trying to come through. So your relationships can evolve to be a really good fit, or maybe they're just not a good fit, and that's the information that you need to hear. But when you're denying something, you're just kind of prolonging the lesson that is there for you to learn. When I had roommates, I didn't really like to talk in the morning, and I would always feel this anxiety about it. And it was such a weight because it felt like it was taking my energy away having to socialize when I didn't want to. And so I just communicated, hey, in the morning until about 9 a.m., I'm pretty quiet. I actually don't really want to talk at all because I feel so inward. And that just completely relieved so much suffering and allowed our relationship to evolve. So sometimes when things aren't a right fit or you don't feel fully comfortable, it really is an opportunity for you to deepen the relationship. And oftentimes speaking boundaries and speaking your highest truth is really intimate and going to deepen the connection. Something that I've realized when speaking boundaries is it can be really scary, but the worst thing that can happen when you speak a boundary is that someone leaves your life. And the best thing that's happening when you're speaking your boundaries is that you're choosing yourself. So I'd much rather always choose myself than someone who can't fully hold me. In this way, you can fully honor the information that is trying to come through and be present. When you're in denial of anything or performing anything, then you can't be as present. You can't be as close to God. Like the moments where I feel deeply connected to spirit and source and God are the moments where I'm fully present with myself, fully honest with myself, and showing that through my actions. Like really walking with God through the way that I'm communicating and showing up, not denying any of the miracle that I am. And so that's a really powerful one. Like, there's no need to force anything. There's no need to pretend or to match people's energy. There's no performance happening. And with socializing, this has lifted so much weight off of my shoulders because I used to obsess over little things that I might have said in a conversation and feel so guilty and shameful about it, or just really read into something that I said or did that might have been weird or too much. And then I realized like, oh wait, this is who I authentically am. And if that's too much for someone, then that's okay. I kind of wanted to segue into emotional regulation. I feel like it was so easy for me in the past to spiral into shame and guilt about who I was, like little weird things that I would say, or it still comes up for me now, this feeling like, oh, my childhood trauma is speaking loudly. Like people can see that I didn't have a normal childhood or that I have been really sad in my life. Sometimes I'm afraid or I feel shameful about the fact that I can spend 2 weeks completely alone and be totally fine with it. Things like that are really small, but I can feel so embarrassed about myself. Other examples of this can sound like, oh, I hope they don't think that I'm weird. I was really tired and kind of off today. I feel like they probably picked up on my energy and probably just never want to hang out with me ever again. Or I kept cutting Reese off in sentences today because I was really excited. I'm such a bad friend. I really need to work on that. I should probably apologize to her, even when it wasn't even a big deal and we were both cutting each other off because we were really excited. Or questioning my entire life path because of a moment of imposter syndrome. Just all the little narratives that can go from A to Z real quick. The ability to switch that narrative into unconditional acceptance has been so much quicker and so much easier. Unconditional acceptance of the self isn't something that can be verbally taught. Although I wish I knew it existed, it's kind of something that you meet yourself with over and over again in those moments of embarrassment or shame or cringing at yourself and just being like, oh wait, but let's see things how they really are and just know that I am an embodiment of the divine just like everyone else, and my upbringing has molded who I am, and it's so valid. How I feel is valid. My weird quirks are valid. There's actually nothing wrong with what I said or what I did, and maybe there's some accountability or some learning that has to be done, but ultimately you're not bad or wrong for being like goofy or obsessive in little ways or weird. Like there's just a much softer narrative that you can cast upon yourself, and your voice in your head really can be your ally at a certain point. All you have to do is meet yourself in those moments of fear, in those moments of smallness, and choose the kinder thought and choose the higher consciousness perspective. Choose to see and love yourself the way that God does, or spirit, or the universe, whatever you like to call it. It's like everything that you are is a miracle. And so how would someone who carries that belief system act, and act that way? Of course, with the accountability aspect too. Another thing that helps me emotionally regulate is to know what medicine I need. That for me really helps my body calm down when I'm in a state of shame or guilt or just overwhelm, is knowing what I'm going to do to ease my nervous system and to really alleviate this feeling. And in the moment, I'll also extend my exhale, which activates the parasympathetic nervous system. And along with not having to perform anything, if you are in a social setting and you start to get anxiety, you're allowed to just sit in silence with yourself. And I've done this at parties, just literally just meditating on the porch quietly. And it's been so healing and resetting just knowing I can take that permission for myself. And then of course, actually just taking those deep breaths. And usually there's someone else in the spaces that I'm in who also just wants to meditate silently or needs to regulate their nervous system. And we do it together. And it's such a beautiful thing. Like, what a concept that living in your purest, natural authenticity is medicine for everyone. It's actually so healing, and I've just been seeing proof of this so much in my life. And lastly, I wanted to speak on low self-worth because that is what fed into so much trauma in my life, just of what I allowed, because I felt like I was a piece of shit. I just felt like I was nothing, and so anything else was better than what I was, even if it was toxic or abusive. Gaining self-worth is being really comfortable with yourself and finding people who are like you, finding true representation, not just in your appearance, but also in the things that you enjoy, or being introverted, or I don't know, being obsessed with aliens. Like, finding your community and like-minded people will make you feel so much less like an outsider or an other in this world. And finding, my sisters in my community has made me feel so full and so okay with not everyone understanding me. It's totally fine if people think that I'm crazy or weird at this point, because I have people that deeply see and understand me, and we're all weird in the same way. That is a great place to start. Spending time with yourself, becoming friends with who you are, and getting to know the things about you. It's literally just information like, oh, I'm sensitive, or I get really attached to people easily. I think that's such an attractive thing whenever I meet people who just know who they are and not have too much attachment or aversion to it. You're like, yeah, that's just me, and it's okay. That is a beautiful thing. And throughout everything that I share, I know that there's so much intersectionality. I know that I have pretty privilege, for example, and that's something that a lot of people have said to me in the past, like, oh, it's so easy for you to heal though. It's so easy for you to be happy because at least you're beautiful, at least you have a nice body. And there probably are parts of that are true, even though even the most beautiful women in the world still second guess themselves, still have low self-worth, still get cheated on. Like, it's actually not about that. The older I get, the more that I realize that spiritual wealth and inner liberation is the most energetically attractive thing, is the most abundant thing that you can have. And I'm not trying to say that beauty and being conventionally attractive hasn't positively affected my path at all, or that's part of the reason why I feel like a lot of people initially will click on my videos. When I was in middle school and high school, it was just kind of a popularity contest, a beauty contest. The popular girls always had money and looked a certain way and were very conventionally attractive to what the beauty standards were at the time, which for me was white, blonde, blue-eyed, tall, skinny, and I didn't fit into that. And as I got older, I just realized that it just keeps changing. And I also started to meet people who I had put on a pedestal that I thought were so beautiful, and realized that they were so far from themselves, or just feel like the energy wasn't as vibrant as I had made up in my head, that I thought all pretty people were just nice and pretty on the inside. I realized that wasn't true. More recently, I'm realizing that the most important thing for yourself is how free you are on the inside from your negative thoughts, from the conditioning that isn't serving you, from your childhood trauma. Like, that energy speaks so loudly. And when I lived in New York, I really saw so many diverse groups of people, different age groups, different backgrounds, of people that seemed so liberated from the inside, making wacky art that they loved, and talking to strangers on the street and making banter. That was something that really stuck out to me, was people who could just bring joy to a New York City street randomly, who could just connect on something really personal and unique and just laugh. Like, I enjoyed the banter of people in New York so much, and who weren't performing. I've also met people who are incredibly successful and famous, who are models or singers, and have so much weight and anxiety and pressure all the time. Whoa, beauty is not everything. Having money is not everything. Although, yes, it does help and give you more time to be able to work on yourself. Being famous is not everything. Being free from the inside, that is the main goal. I just want to be a good person at the end of the day. And I want to
be a wealth of softness and safety and nuance and understanding and compassion and calm and peace. That means so much to me. That transcends all of the external, the wealth and the fame and the beauty. It's just being a loving, compassionate being on the inside.
I know that this might be kind of basic because so many of us are seeking inner liberation and seeking to go beyond ourselves, but when I was younger, and maybe even still now in this day, I think that once I attain something, or my acne scars heal, for example, or I get my Invisalign, I'll just feel better about myself, you know? Or in some future moment when I receive something or finish a project, things will be better and more healed, and I'll just love myself more and life will be more easeful. But it's like you almost become addicted to the waiting and energetically attached to not feeling fulfilled within yourself or within your life, so that when those things even arrive, it's lackluster and you're just on to the next accolade that you're seeking, or the next like beauty product that you think is gonna switch that energetic narrative. And that's just something that I wish I knew sooner, not to idealize every little thing and to find the miracle in the mundane, because this is truly the only moment that we ever have. Everything else is so impermanent. Even if something that you get, some kind of procedure, does bring you joy, that is going to change. And I'm very existential, so I can see myself now as an 80-year-old woman, and I can see my body changing so much, and I can see the journey that it is to go even deeper inside yourself as other forms of identification shift. And I kind of want to be embodying that now. Like, wait, what actually matters in this fucking life, you know? So to my younger self, focus on the inside. And the more that you do that, the less that those external things matter. Like everything on my vision board, it's like, if I'm content in this moment, that I'm completely unattached to it looking exactly like this. I am seeking the feeling on the inside, not the appearance on the outside. And I think that the deeper conversation here is that it's also a dismantling of the patriarchal policing that we all may have internalized in our body. At least I feel like I have, very effortlessly since I hit puberty. The conditioning of what I'm supposed to be as a woman, how I'm supposed to act, how I'm supposed to look, and all the ways that I've felt around groups of men is terrifying and also part of the conditioning. I don't think that men even realize that they're negatively impacted by patriarchy, but I also know that beauty standards and fat phobia, diet culture, sexism, and just all the ways that this capitalist society makes money off of our insecurities is a part of patriarchy. And when I focus inwardly and continually return to the inside of me for information on what I want to look like, how I'm supposed to feel, rather than outside of me, the more that I'm literally stepping outside of my internalized male gaze patriarchal policing, the less I'm upholding the patriarchy within myself. And it's honestly been saving me money. I haven't shaved my legs the past few months. I haven't waxed my bikini line, which I was doing every month. I've just been too lazy to, and I don't mind having hair down there, and I'm loving it a lot actually. I haven't been doing tons of online shopping to dress any type of way. Like, when I think about it, I just have 5 t-shirts that I love wearing, and I've kind of been alternating between those. And so it's just saving me money, it's saving me time and energy. And I'll literally look in the mirror some mornings if I have like tons of little whiteheads or a news it, and I'll just be like, what's up? Like, there's no further conversation. I'm just like, this is me, and I just genuinely can't be bothered to care about like this external thing too much, or like what anyone else might say. And I've talked about this a lot in other videos. Like, I think that a lot of our insecurities stem from the outside and what other people are going to say about what we look like if we give ourselves permission to be. It's just none of my business what anyone else says, or even what my body wants to do naturally. It's like, if you want to grow and shift and change, that's your business, body. Like, I'm just here to witness and hopefully to love you and other people. So I'm going to try to do that. Overall, it's a simple concept, finding your sense of fulfillment and love from the inside, but it does kind of feed into all these other little things. And that's kind of where I've been at, just the subtle embodiments.
I feel like on this spiritual journey, a lot of us have this one grand moment of awakening, and we just start realizing all these synchronicities and deeper truths and establishing ourselves a little bit lower and deeper into who we truly are. At a certain point, sometimes it can plateau, and then we'll learn some new information and we'll kind of lift up a little bit more, and our awareness will keep expanding throughout, but then there are like these plateau seasons. I feel like that's at least where I'm at in my journey, where I just keep deepening the lessons that I've learned, and it can be subtle in the way that I'm showing up, and then it just kind of plateaus and I'm just coasting. There's nothing intense kind of slapping me in the face. The universe isn't, holding me down to the ground and forcing me to listen. I'm like really attuned to listening. And so it's been pretty chill, but then there are just these little ways that I feel myself reclaiming my energy or my awareness expanding that feels really good. So thank you for being on this journey with me and just reveling in all the highs and the lows. I'm just so proud of us for existing as humans and navigating all of it. Thank you so much. I cherish you. And until I see you next, I hope you can take some deep belly breaths. I'll be doing it with you on the astral planes. Bye.